Hello everyone, and welcome to our fourth podcast in our My Wellbeing series. This podcast we're going to be talking to two absolutely amazing colleagues from Computer Centre, Vicky and Karen, and we're going to be talking about breast cancer awareness. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and just a few statistics for those who didn't know. Over 55,000 women in the UK every year are diagnosed with breast cancer. And along with those women, 370 men every year are diagnosed. Those statistics can seem quite shocking, and that's why we want to raise awareness of the signs and symptoms of breast cancer and how we can look after ourselves and those around us. So welcome Vicky and Karen. I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves. Vicky?
Hi, I'm Vicky. I work in GIS. I've worked for Computer Centre for 24 years. I'm in the workplace part of GIS. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in September 2019, so 3 years ago. It's all coming back. I finished treatment 2 years ago, and I've been in remission for the last 2 years.
Hi, I'm Karen. I've worked for Computer Centre for 35 years. I'm currently working in the GIS division, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer 4 years ago. So my journey is nearly over. I was diagnosed after just a routine mammogram. I had no symptoms, no lumps or anything like that. So that was quite a shock for me. And just really here to help everybody raise awareness of signs and symptoms.
Thank you so much. I didn't actually realise how close together you two were in terms of your diagnosis and your treatments. Thank you so much for wanting to talk to us about it, and I hope that this session doesn't bring out too many emotions, and if it does, it's absolutely fine. But Vicky, can I come to you first? Can you tell us a little bit about why you went to the doctor, how you were diagnosed, and sort of your journey?
Yes, I was on holiday with my children back in August 2019, and I noticed a change in my breast. It was a nipple change, which I didn't realise at the time that was a sign, and I didn't Google it, thankfully. But when I come back, I thought I better check. I spoke to the doctor. I was fast-tracked through to the breast clinic. I visited the breast clinic. I had a mammogram, I had an ultrasound, and I had a consultation and a biopsy all within that morning. I was told as I left that room, this is definitely cancer. We just don't know what type yet, because there are several different types of breast cancer. And from there, I had 3 weeks worth of tests, scans, before I was able to get a treatment plan.
Wow, so it all happened so quickly.
Very quickly. They even sent me down the back stairs of the clinic crying because they didn't want to put me back out through the room with all the other ladies. But it was very quick, and it was shocking the way that I didn't realise when I went to that mammogram that I would be coming out and having that diagnosis so quickly.
And can I just ask you about mammograms? I know from experience mammograms are only available to women of a certain age.
Yes, I'm not old enough for a mammogram, so I wouldn't have been old enough at that point for a mammogram, so it's a good job I went and investigated. I didn't feel a lump. There was one there, but I didn't feel it. And I wouldn't have had a mammogram till I was 50, so that was another 2 years. Luckily, my cancer was localised and hadn't spread to any of my nodes or anywhere else in my body. And I'm thankful that I did check when I did, because if I'd have waited till I was due my mammogram, it could have been a different story.
And how did you feel when you got the diagnosis?
It felt to me like my world had stopped. Everyone else was carrying on, but mine felt like it was paused. I was frightened for my children, because I've got 2 children and I'd brought them into the world, and the thought that I may possibly be leaving them was so hard. But once I got to the end of my 3 weeks of tests, that was when they confirmed it was treatable with a good prognosis. And from there, I then managed to speak to my children. Once we knew the path I had to take to make me better, we managed to talk to the children.
I mean, that's as a mother of two little boys myself, I can't ever imagine having to sit my children down and say to them, this is what's happening to mummy. How did you do that? How did you cope?
I think it was the hardest conversation I've ever had in my life. It was one I didn't want to do, but I wanted to be brave when I did it. So I did it without getting upset, because I didn't want to show them that I was upset, because that would have set them off on the wrong footing. So I stayed strong. We talked about it. I told them that I would have to go through chemotherapy. I was going to lose my hair possibly. They were so brave, and I was upset because I thought back to when I was their age, and if that had been my mum, it would have frightened the life out of me.
I think your strength gave them strength, though.
And that's what they said. Further into the treatment, they said because I was strong through the treatment, that helped them, because they saw I was dealing with it. It helped them deal with it.
Did you feel strong in reality, especially with your mental health? Did you feel like I can't almost let go? And was there ever a time where you just sat there and you just cried and cried and cried and you thought, I can't go on with this?
In these first 3 weeks, when I didn't know whether it had spread, I think that's the toughest time, from diagnosis to them getting to the point where they have diagnosed it fully and they've decided how they're going to treat it. That's a really dark time.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where it is, what's going on, how they're going to deal with it. And unfortunately for us, during that time, my husband's mum died as well. So as a family, we had so much being thrown at us. And I do remember feeling like I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. It was a tough time.
You are such a strong person for doing that. As I said, as a mum of two, I don't think I could have ever have sat my children down and said that to them and held it together like you did. So thank you for sharing that with us. Karen, can we hear from you about your diagnosis?
Yes, I'd had one mammogram, which was clear, totally clear, and then it was my second lot of screening, and I was called back for a referral because they'd seen something they didn't like. And it wasn't until they did the ultrasound that they actually found a lump, because it was very small and very deep. So then, again, like Vicky, everything moves very, very quickly after then. You're referred to the hospital, you see the consultant, you're booked in for your surgery. It's all, I think it goes, it's a bit of a blur as well, because it's a shock, you don't expect it. Then you have to explain to your family what's going on. Unlike Vicky, my children are older, but they were both out of the country travelling. So I didn't really have that conversation with them, because I didn't want to worry them because they weren't at home. It was my parents, that was the worst conversation that I had. That was really difficult telling them, because they're older, and I actually don't remember telling my brother, which is really weird. I think I just kind of blocked that out. So my parents were really, really supportive and really helped me through. But my attitude was to be strong, to be positive the whole time, and to just go, this is what it is, this is what we're going to do, let's get on with it and get it done.
Very matter of fact.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that was how I deal with it. And I think we all deal with it differently, but I think being positive is a really good thing. I recently spoke to a colleague who had a family member going through some cancer treatments, and she said to me, the fact that you were just so normal about it really helped. And that's how I tried to make it just normal. I didn't have chemo, I had radiotherapy, and it was like, right, okay, come on, let's let's get this done, let's do this, and try to be really cheerful and positive all the time. I think that's what helped me.
Absolutely. So you've both discussed what kind of treatments you had, and they're very different, the same way as your discovery of the cancer was very different.
Yes.
Could you, Vicky, talk us through what kind of treatment you had and how that affected you?
Yeah, I had 6 months of chemotherapy, travelling backwards and forwards to the hospital for blood tests the day before, the chemotherapy the following day. They installed a little port in my chest, so they ran the chemotherapy through my chest. I had 13 rounds of chemotherapy before I could, because they wanted to shrink the lump before they even did any mastectomy. I was upset I wanted the mastectomy first off because I wanted the cancer gone, and when they said they couldn't do that, that really frightened me, because it was the first time they'd introduced chemotherapy into the equation. But I realised I had to go through it. I had to be strong for my children. I wanted to be here for them, so I had to just be positive, knuckle down, and deal with it. I had around 10 or 11 sessions of chemotherapy, and then COVID hit, and then I could no longer have anybody with me for any of my chemotherapy. Karen came to my last one, that I could actually have someone with me. I then had to go on my own. I had my mastectomy in lockdown, first lockdown. My husband had to leave me in the car park. We had to leave the children at home on their own because no one was allowed.
Which is an added upset and stress, isn't it? Yeah.
I had to walk to the theatre on my own. I had nobody there. And I was basically thrown back out of the hospital within 24 hours because they felt I was safer at home than I was in a hospital. After the mastectomy, I had around 6 to 8 weeks, and then I had 15 rounds of radiotherapy, and now I'm on hormonal treatment. It was all very tough because chemotherapy is known as something, they call it, it's likened to neat bleach being put through your body. It kills all the fast growing cells, dividing cells, which is why you can lose your hair, which I did, which I think was one of the most upsetting parts of it all. I wasn't sick on chemotherapy. I took all the advice of the nurses and followed everything they said to help me. They gave me medication that would help me stop the sickness, and it did work. And I just managed. I just coped. The company supported me through it. They were really good. They said just stay home and look after yourself. They were fantastic. And I got there.
Well, that is absolutely incredible to hear, and I'm so sorry you had to go through all of that pretty much on your own, but I'm so glad Karen was able to be there.
Yeah, I remember
you.
The last session that you had, the nurse coming in with the good news for you, didn't she?
Yeah, we had, on my last session, they'd done a CT, an MRI scan, and that had actually shown that the chemotherapy had a total response. And the lump had virtually vanished. And she was so pleased to be able to come in and tell me that.
Yeah, and that was happy tears then, wasn't it?
Very, very happy tears then.
You mentioned mastectomy, and I know a lot of women out there are very afraid of that, and it's something that they feel they don't want to ever have to go through. They would rather go through the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy, whereas some, as you mentioned yourself, Vicky, you had already decided that this is what you wanted?
Yes, they did say that they could have done a lumpectomy, but because we were in COVID and because the theatres were not available anymore, I couldn't deal with the fact that I'd be operated on and then they'd check the margins and say, we haven't got everything and we're going to need to operate again. Oh, but by the way, because it's COVID, we can't get a theatre. So at that point I said, just please, I want a mastectomy. I want you to take it away because I want to be able to know it's gone. And she did that for me.
That's very powerful. Thank you so much. Karen, can you tell us a little bit about, you said you had radiotherapy, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So I had a lumpectomy, so I now say I've got 1.5 boobs, not 2. And then I had 6 weeks of radiotherapy after that, and yeah, everything was gone. One of the things that did happen to me was after radiotherapy I developed something called lymphedema, which means my arm and my hand swell because the lymph nodes don't work properly. So the lymph actually collects in your arm, which after going through what you go through, to be left with that, and there's no cure, you have it for life. That was tough, but yeah, to be clear is the best thing.
Absolutely. It sounds what you have both gone through. Yes, it has been very, very traumatic, but the way you've handled it is absolutely amazing. I want to talk about what next, Vicky, if that's okay. So what happens now?
I am monitored yearly. It's next week is my mammogram again. So it's that. I've got to go and do this all through again yearly.
3 or 4?
Year 3.
3.
So do you get checked every year?
I get
up
checked.
to
Yearly. I also have an oncologist who will see me 6 monthly at the moment, but I think now that I'm 3 years down the line, that may be dropped off a bit more now.
Yeah, and likewise, like Vicky, I am monitored for 5 years. I've just had my 4th year anniversary, and I have regular appointments with the oncologist for the hormone therapy that you have to take afterwards. And onwards and upwards.
Absolutely. So obviously we're here today to raise awareness of breast cancer. What would be your takeaway points from this? If you wanted to give 3 tips to people about raising awareness for breast cancer and checking themselves, what would it be?
For me, I would say don't just look for lumps, look for changes, know you're normal. That's the thing, know you're normal. And if there's something that you're not sure about, get it checked out. 80% of people, I believe, that are referred to breast clinics that are fine, but at least you get checked. But yeah, know you're normal. Look for skin changes, swelling, rashes. All of these things. They're
and
about
not just your boobs.
It's not just a lump.
Under your
basically.
arms as well,
Yeah. And be aware that younger people are susceptible to this as well. And
I would say screening, always attend your appointments, your mammograms, never think it'll be okay. You always need to attend them because you just don't know. And I think catching cancer early is so important in my case, particularly, and it's not a death sentence. I think a lot of people hear that word and they think the worst. It isn't like that anymore. Treatment is really improved.
Thank you so much. I think it's really good to point out that when we think of breast cancer, or when we think of cancer in general, it's a bit like dementia, where my mum was diagnosed at 50. We always think these things come with age.
Yeah.
But it's not the case.
No.
So I know that 8 out of 10 cases of breast cancer are diagnosed in women over the age of 50. But around 2,300 women in the UK are diagnosed and they are under the age of 39.
Yeah.
So that's quite a staggering amount. And you both mentioned that you were both under the age of 50. Is that correct? When you were both diagnosed?
Just over. Just.
Is there anything else that you want to say to people about breast cancer?
I would just say if anyone is going through it and wants to talk, please come and find me and talk to me. I've always been really, really open about it, and I'm happy to talk to anyone or support anyone with their journey.
Yeah, same for me. Karen really helped me, and yeah, I'm really open to if anyone needs any help or wants to ask anything.
And your family network and CC, they were a great support as well, and all the resources that are available. Use what you need to use.
So you mentioned computer centre. I'm interested in knowing, after you came back from having your treatments, how did you feel about coming back to work?
I was looking forward to it, to be normal, to get back to normal life. So yeah, I found it all quite positive. I did a phased return to work. all colleagues were really, really supportive. So I didn't find that journey a bad journey coming back.
I found it quite hard because COVID had kicked in whilst I was off, so everyone had learnt to work from home together, and I was off. So when I come back, I craved normality, and it wasn't available. So it was quite a tough journey back in, but I eventually got allowed to come back to the office, and I feel more comfortable being here because I've been here 24 years, and the office is where I work, really. So it was tough at first, but yeah, it's good now.
I know that there are loads of support charities and places people can go to for supporting themselves and supporting anyone in their family that's going through breast cancer. Was there any external support charities that you use that you would like to talk about?
I used Breast Cancer Now whilst I was going through it. They have nurses that you can talk to. They also have a Someone Like Me programme, so they will find someone that's had the same diagnosis as you and would be able to talk to you whenever you wanted. I've also used Future Dreams charity. They've been wonderful to me. In the last couple of weeks I had a makeover day with them, which was wonderful. They do all sorts of Pilates and hair wrapping and makeup and all sorts of workshops that you can join, so they've been a wonderful charity as well.
Yeah, and the Rennie Grove Hospital, it's Hospice at St Albans Hospital. They offer an awful lot of things, as Vicky's just said. I'm currently having acupuncture to help with the hot flushes from the medication. And yeah, they've got lots of resources available.
We will link all of those resources on this podcast as well, so if anyone wants to reach out to them or to you both, then they can do so.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
so
Samaya.
open and honest, and honestly your bravery and your strength is beyond words. So thank you both.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.